All right, so I got my screwdriver here, and I have a center punch. Looks like this, and a big hammer. Now, what you don't want to do is use this on the table. The table is relatively soft. Even though it's metal, it's relatively soft. This part of the vise right here is meant to do this, and you want to be sure to hit pretty hard. Okay? Don't hold the hammer like this and do this kind of thing, like Woody Woodpecker. You want to get a big hammer and be able to hit it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get this aligned up. Take your time, double check. Okay, if it looks good and it's not that deep, you could do it maybe a second time, but be sure it's in the right spot. Okay, one more to go here. And maybe a second time. So you want two pretty good sized dents here. You want a good enough dent to where the drill is going to really stay in that area and not wander around. Okay? If you make a mistake, it's possible you could lay out your project on this left side and continue without getting a new piece of metal. Here we are in cabinet 3. I'm going to grab a number 11 drill, which is right here, and a 5/16 drill. They should be tight fitting in the holes and not loose. If you want to double check that you have the right drill, you might be able to read it at the base, but it probably is worn away. This is called a drill gauge, and it might be hard to see, but this is a number 9 right here, number 10, number 11, and then 12 it doesn't fit. So the size back is 11, so that's definitely a number 11 drill. And you can do the same thing in this area with the 5/16. If you want to double check you got the right drill. We have 4 drill presses, and we could basically use the right one and the next one over for doing the small holes to the screwdriver, and then you could move your vise over to the next 2 to do the larger holes. That'd be one way of doing it. It's important with the speed that on this one you want to turn it on and then move this counterclockwise. See that? So counterclockwise, so it's moving slow. This one's kind of preset with belts. This one, again, while it's on, just move it all the way so it's slow. And on this one right here, you do the power while it's off. And we're going to move this to be in low. All right, so make sure you're spinning the drill slowly for this oil hardening tool steel. Next is inserting the drill into the Jacobs chuck. You only want to put the drill in about 1 inch, okay? What you don't want to do is just push it all the way up because it's going to be hard to get out. But this is called the Jacobs chuck. And again, just put it in 1 inch, and then you're going to tighten this by hand and spin it, or just visualize it, look at it, make sure it's nice and true. And back here, you'll find some chuck keys on chains. And this is called a chuck key. And we're going to put this end in here and go clockwise with as much muscle as you got. So tight like that. To get it out, you put in the chuck key and you go counterclockwise and out it comes. Some students I've seen, they put the drill in like this, and it's not safe. So be sure that you get it in just about 1 inch, chuck key, tighten it. The next thing is, for safety, it's important that the vise cannot spin around. So we don't want the vise to basically spin around. And this piece of metal here makes that happen. Whereas if this wasn't here, this could spin around and be dangerous. So be sure that we have this safety guard in place. Down over here, you'll see there's a box of wood. And we want the piece of wood to be a little bit more narrow than your screwdriver metal, which should be there. And so I'm just going to place okay, so I have a piece of wood underneath the screwdriver, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, with the power off, I'm going to have the drill touch my dent. So make sure it's hitting right where I want. So with the power off, it's touching that dent. Then we have some cutting fluid here. We'll put a drop of that on. We might put more on. I'm going to start up the machine and apply steady pressure with my hand up here. I'm going to pull down on it with steady pressure. And if it starts to smoke a little bit, put some more cutting fluid on. But if you're not seeing chips come out, metal chips come out of here, that means you have a dull drill bit and you need to stop right away and get a sharpened drill from myself or someone else. Really important. So let's see if this drill cuts, or see if it's dull. And your left hand will be on the vise here. So take a look. Within 3 seconds there, I'm already seeing chips. A little bit of smoke is okay, but I'm already seeing chips there. So I wanted to point that out. If you want, put a little more cutting fluid. All right. If you saw there, it's starting to lift up the screwdriver. That can happen sometimes if I don't have the vise really tight. So I'm going to tighten that vise up a little bit. Okay, next, I can't really see the other dent, so I'm going to move the stuff out of the way. And I see that dent now, so I'm going to do the second one, same thing. I'm going to touch the dent with the power off and get some cutting fluid on there. Make sure that you're in the right spot. Okay, so there's the dent. I have cutting fluid. Cool it off a little bit. There's a little bit of wood there, so I definitely went past the metal into the wood. That's totally fine. And the reason why we use the wood might be hard to see in here, but you can see where students have drilled into this really hard metal because they weren't using wood underneath. So that's why we use it. Okay, so now what we can do is we'll just leave the drill on. There'll probably be some students behind you, and we're going to grab our 5/16 drill, and we're going to move down to the third or the fourth drill press. Now this one right now has a different style of chuck. It's a little bit different, in that basically you have to hold on up here, and then this thing, the bottom part of this chuck moves, and there is no chuck key. So basically, I think it's a little bit harder, and I might be replacing this. But once it's in about 1 inch, what you want to do is one hand here and one hand up here, and you want to tighten like that. And then that's basically in. All right, so now you want to be sure to enlarge the correct hole. And you can look at the plan sheet behind you. There's one on the wall, but there's always sometimes a student that enlarges the wrong hole. So I'm going to make sure I'm doing the correct hole. Again, with the power off, I'm touching the dent. Get some cutting fluid on there. Make sure that it's going slow when you turn it on. Left hand on the vise. Again, if I wasn't seeing chips come out, you'd want to stop because you have a dull drill. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have a chemical reaction with the high heat and the smoke and the oil, and it'll get hard, and then you won't be able to drill it. So it's really important you're looking for these chips. If you're not seeing chips and you're pulling with steady pressure, you have a dull drill. If you notice there for a split second, this drill was not moving while this was. And again, it's just because, and again, I might replace this, but it's hard to crank this really tight like you can a chuck key. But we have it here, just another piece of equipment for you to get familiar with, different style of chuck. So now I have both holes done, and so that's great. They went where I wanted them to go. The backside might be a little sharp here, but you know, that'll be fixed later. But after this, what I would say to do is to wash it off and maybe run a file on the backside. Files are down here. Just grab a file. Just file like this. That's it. Got those burrs off really quickly. So now I'm going to go ahead and take it and just wipe it off with a paper towel. Got the burrs off now. It's not going to cut me. I rinse mine off with soap just to get it off. But you know, if it's not really blue over here or really scratched up, you should put layout fluid on it again. I think mine's good enough to not need a fresh coat of layout fluid, but we want this area here to have layout fluid because we're going to be scribing some lines. But I'll put another layer of layout fluid, but I just want you to know that it's optional. It depends on how it looks at this point. So when in doubt, put another layer of layout fluid on, but you might not have to.